thank you so much for joining us again. This is the Emerald Paradigm, here with another discussion. We just want to say thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed or shared or just supporting us. We're so grateful. Those of you who may have checked out our Patreon page, thank you so much. We're so humbled and honored for the support of this project, because it is a lot of work for us. We can say that. It is a lot of work for us, and although it's coming from our heart and we're so fulfilled, what we do appreciate your support, so thank you. And,
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful divine exchange, and we have so much fulfillment because it is a calling to do these discussions, and we would love to have that cycle of of completion go around.
Absolutely. And growth comes from that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
But our topic today, as you know, we like to pick a topic, and we've gone with authenticity. This kind of needed to come after our last discussion, which was duality. And, we kind of almost touched on authenticity a little bit, but we're going to dedicate this to that. We don't script these at all. We pick a topic, we chat for a few minutes before, and then we kind of get started. So these are all this is conversation. I just want to kind of put that out there that, if we were going to keep talking about these kind of things, we could probably talk for 8 or 9 hours, maybe more.
Yes.
So,
one subject leads into the next, into the next, into the next. And so maybe we'll do a marathon.
Yeah. Lots of coffee and treats.
Yes.
But as far as authenticity goes, we're taking the levels, level 1, 2, 3 here. And our first area we would like to discuss with you is, being true to yourself, living more or less for yourself. Not that it's not beautiful to be selfless at times or to extend or, to do things like that, but a place of being not influenced, I want to say, by what other people expect us to do or be or think or act or anything. Of course, we live in society. Of course, it's a strength to be a bit adaptable, for sure, to, go to your job and be, that version of yourself, and then, be with your friends and you're different. We just have different roles a little bit depending on the environment, so we're not necessarily saying that, but being true to yourself,
It's hard, right? And you just said work. What is authenticity, and how do we hold that space when so many facets of our life require so many different things from us, right? I keep saying this is why this beautiful journey is called mastery. It's not because, we reach this superior, but because it is so much work. And it takes so much devotion and stumbling and so many other situations, elements that's a good word, to get to that next place, right? It's not easy. Authentic, being true to that self. And I guess we have to take a step back and say, well, we don't know ourselves, then it's maybe a little hard, right?
Definitely.
To be authentic.
Absolutely.
Because we don't know what our authenticity is, right? And so I almost feel right, and this is preempted, we did not practice or, speak about this, is taking a step back for those who may, as they hear the word authenticity and say wow, well, how do I do that? Is a vision board.
That's a beautiful one, yeah.
A vision board. Who am I? And, how do I vibrate from that place of being authentic? Do a vision board, and be very playful with it. Be very spontaneous with it. Get a couple of magazines that really speak to you, and have fun with it. And let the vision board help you in defining who your soul desires to be and its authentic essence.
And as a vision board, if you don't know, it's a piece of cardboard, something kind of firm, where you just put images on what you want. You can draw them, you can cut them out for magazines, like you said. But in terms of something that you might be able to do from your phone, 'cause you know what, I love the phone because we're all always on our phone. And this is just for the crowd who really likes Instagram or something. There's an option for you to like save an image. And you don't save it to your phone. It just goes into this file. So what I do on my social media is like I kind of use social media as like my vision board. I make sure that I follow only accounts that are supportive of like my identity, you know, myself.
Right.
So it'll be crystals, it'll be healing stuff, singing bowls, you know, like whatever I'm kind of working on or want to acquire or develop, I kind of save them there. And that way, if you're in the type who can need that mindless scroll once in a while, you know, we all have a little bit of calling to do that from time to time instead of going through something that's you know, I don't want to say chaos, but could be anything. If you save images that are specifically linked to that, or even on your phone and have like a folder, you can use that. It's not a vision board. It's not the same thing, but it might be something as a tool you can use on the go. You know, like to focus on.
I like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
get to. Something to remind you. I like that. I think that there's so I do love that. I think that there's also something that happens when we actually get into the creation of it.
I agree. The cutting, the positioning,
because it almost puts
the colors.
you into a place of meditation.
Absolutely.
And also into a place of openness to get, you know, your inner voice and the celestial beings to talk to you about, while I'm doing this and I'm looking to define, you know, who am I? And, you know, I think it starts there from like being authentic. If you already know who you are, if you haven't, you know, if you've connected to that voice of wanting to be a vessel of light, a healer, a musician, of holding the space of peace, you know. So now if you have, then how do we hold that? How do we remain faithful? Faithful to all of those attributes and aspirations that we desire to become and to vibrate when we're living in the world, right?
And we have other people's expectations, or, you know, we all have most of us have this call to create harmony in our life, and sometimes that's a bit of self-sacrifice in an extreme, you know?
Yes.
Not in like a nice gesture or a giving situation, but just constantly being put in that position where we're sacrificing an aspect of ourselves, and that removes us from our authenticity, and it doesn't do anyone any good, because then when you finally have to be yourself, or you break forward, the straw breaks, or whatever the case may be, it's going to throw everything out of whack. So we're not creating harmony by adapting or stepping down or dumbing down. You know, but I think it's a natural inclination, like, oh, I don't want confrontation, so maybe I shouldn't bring this up, or maybe I should, you know, not mention that that's what I'm into or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do, and you know, it reminds, you're right when you said, we just did a recording on duality and how this is perfect, because we do create a duality when we step down or we yield to becoming something that we're not, just to hold the peace.
Right.
You know, or just to, you know, not be confrontational, not to hurt or offend someone, you know. Now, of course, we're not suggesting at all that, you know, that we become, you know...
careless and hurtful,
you know, and that we're endorsing that, you know, look, this is my spirituality, so, you know, like, I don't care about you, you know. But detachment, we should look at, as we're exploring authenticity, then, the attachments that we feel obligated to, and how we should lovingly detach from, right? People, places, and things that don't endorse our authenticity. Don't endorse it.
And that can be hard. That's
it
very
can
challenging.
Be very hard.
We all have lost, or, you know, I don't even like that term, but have moved beyond certain relationships or friendships, families that don't speak to one another. And it sounds like so cold and so, oh my God, and I don't speak to my brother, or, you know, like something like that. But you don't have to judge it, you know? Like, people split, people move on for the greater good of both parties, you know? So give yourself that space. And if you have a friend, a loved one who needs to fulfill their purpose and be authentic, like, let them do so, you know? Don't look at it as a personal attack or, you know, I think that we end up taking things very personally a lot of the time, you know, and that can even be someone else's growth. As much as you think, oh, no, I want them to do good. Sometimes when you see your friend with the, you know, the engagement photo or, oh, I just got this new promotion or whatever. Yeah, it can throw you off because then you're comparing. We're kind of going back to duality there. Like we're comparing comparison. But, you know, being authentic is like, stay in your lane, you know, hydrated, moisturized.
And you know what? That's great. Stay in your lane. You may need to stop for a red light or, right? We may need stop for a pedestrian. But that doesn't mean we stop.
Exactly.
Or that we feel like we need to take a detour because somebody else wants us to.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, as we speak about authenticity and the importance of being authentic, and stepping out of that for the sake of others, it reminds me of a couple of stories that I share in my second book, The Path That Leads the Way. I actually have two that start with the path. The Path That Leads the Way. And there's some incredible, impactful stories here of people that I've worked with along the years, who had a calling. Like one particular individual wanted to be a musician, but his family had these expectations that you needed to, you know, education and masters and PhDs and so while there's nothing wrong with that, they just didn't endorse the creative side and said, "Oh, you're gonna be a hungry artist." And that,
sorry, I just thought that was coming from like my phone or something.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No,
but you're right.
And so, and because he felt the obligation of pleasing his parents, he betrayed his authenticity, you know, and entered into this deep state of depression.
That's where it will take you, unfortunately. Right? Yeah, the further you get away from your calling, and I know that's such a broad word, but musician, you know, it could be huge. I always use the example, like, this could be this calling to, like, start an orphanage in, you know, but it could be, you know, opening your own business or anything, really anything. It's what you're called to. Like we were talking about in the earlier portion of this, is just to connect with yourself, the vision board and tools like that. But it will lead to depression. It will
can
lead
be,
to,
of course. And, you know, the reason why is because it's funny, because as with every topic or every discussion, there's two sides, right? And it could almost be paradoxical because a lot of times we're stuck in trying to discover what our calling is, what our passion is, and people who love us, friends, family, can be the greatest guides in triggering us to connect the dot. And so again, you know, we're not saying like, look, this is, you know, segregate yourself from family. No. We just need to ask if who is influencing us, feeding and fueling, right? Our field to be authentic. Is it in harmony, or is it violating and you know, contradicting, criticizing, ridiculing?
Right,
you know,
right. It can get there for
those
sure.
already seeds of intention, of desire that we have, and if so, what are we going to choose to do? Because as much as we love whoever, when you betray yourself, it is painful. It is painful.
And it will carry on, and it's almost like planting a different kind of seed then, like that you're watering, that you're caring for. It's like a different life almost than what would have, you know, again, there's no right or wrong. We don't, you know, so it's not that, but, you know, it's hard not to see the potential of following one's heart or their calling versus, you know, doing everything because someone told you to, or you were pressured into it. And there's got to be a harmony, you know. It's not like we're not always in a position like, oh, well, I don't care. I'm not gonna, if it's your parents, but you live with your parents, or it's your parents, but they're really helping you to fund your education, or whatever it ends up being. There's so many different circumstances, but that being true to yourself is just so important to everything around you. It extends further than yourself. So that's a reason why, even though it might seem selfish, although it's not, it's the furthest thing from selfish to be true to yourself. It benefits everyone.
Lune. Absolutely. I read something this morning that spoke so highly to me, and it was a beloved who was sharing work on light language, and she said only 10% of what we speak is really our energetic representation. So the remaining 90% is coming from something other than what we speak. Could you imagine? So what is that 90%? Well, it is our disposition, what we're vibrating, what we're energetically transmitting as we engage, as we're presenting, as we're listening, as we're anything. Wow, that's a big thing, because before you hear that, you would think that here we are doing a discussion that while we're being influential, well, guess what we're saying is very little of influence as opposed to the energy that we're radiating. And I think that even the viewers who have started to follow us feel that. They say they feel peaceful. Oh, they feel so much love, right?
Right, definitely.
And so when you bring that back to authenticity, as much as we put a smile on our face, and as much as we say, oh yes, I'm happy, oh yes, life is good, if we are not feeling that, then that vibration of those feelings are going to magnetize into our space, into the space that we interact with others. It is speaking in volume, right?
Absolutely.
It's funny because I wrote another book that's called Mastering the Language of the Universe. And that book actually speaks about the energy, the antennas, the receptors that we're sending out even when we're not speaking. And it's so very true, right? Light language, we're speaking on many different levels.
Absolutely. And we talked a tiny bit about that, or a little portion in perception, and it's not just the words we're saying, or the conversation on a very writing the text like somebody's taking dictation kind of thing. It's the inflection, it's the expression in your face, it's even the colors you're wearing, or how you're presenting yourself. There's so much more that goes into you representing you than the words itself, if we look at that point of view. So when you're being authentic to yourself, it's got to come from how you present yourself, the tone of your voice, the gentle, being gentle, being hard, whatever is truly you right there, to let that come out and don't let it
and
wobble.
I love that part, the expressional side. Like, I just love, as you can see, colors and and again, there's nothing wrong with people who just tend to be subtle in their presentation.
No, that's
but I love when people use their bodies. Whether it's I love tattoos. I think it's such a loud expression of this is me, and I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
Without saying it.
Yeah.
Or hairdos and earrings and just all of that. It does speak without speaking verbally, but vibrationally about I love color, or I'm free.
It's an expression
I'm
of
sensual.
yourself.
I'm a rebel.
Or this is my mood today.
This is my mood today.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when we allow ourselves to fluidly move in those vibrations, we are being authentic, and sometimes it's hard to be authentic because people have no problems ridiculing you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
I remember when I first opened up my first space eons ago, I would wear a bindi, which I'm called to do from time to time. And I had people walk into the shop and walk out just because I was wearing a bindi and go like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, ooh. And almost a related, some kind of negative tone, you know, or fear-based, spiritual fear.
Like it was too much. Like that was too much.
Yeah, you know, and there were many times when I found myself like sad over that and questioning whether, and I said, you know what? No, I have to wear a bindi.
Yeah, when it's the day you know you should, like you're called to.
And that was being authentic, you know, and eventually people got used to, and you know, now people
wear them all the
sort
time.
of kind of do it trendy.
Thank you, Gwen Stefani.
Right. And so it's so important to be authentic. We find a reservoir of joy when we're being true to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we also find a reservoir of tears and sadness when we're not. When we're not.
And when we are being authentic to ourselves, it's sending out a clear message of who we are and what we need and what we accept into our lives. So that law of attraction type, you know, there's a lot more to the law of attraction. I hate to just throw that in because I feel like it's superficial. But, you know, for the conversation, when you are in your place of authenticity of, I know what I want, I'm manifesting this, or I'm working here, but this is what I'm moving towards, or whatever, those resources come. The right people cross your path. You stand out to people. No matter what you're wearing, you stand out. And it's like...
It's a magnet.
You know, like how we met, you know? It's like, I'm gonna... Yeah.
Right. It's a magnet. It is a magnet.
It
is a magnet. And you know what? I love what you're saying, Lune, and as you started to share that, the importance of being authentic in the work we do. And, you know, there it is. We're discussing that there's many ways in which our authenticity is expressed. It's not only verbally. And so if we don't hold a belief in ourselves, say, and we start to present something to someone, are we kidding that we're going to be effective? You know, as an example, you know, you said the law of attraction, right? You know, if we're trying to, you know, do a workshop or something, or even to have a conversation with somebody and say like, oh yes, if you practice the law of attraction, and meanwhile we're not aligned.
Yep.
You know, we're not totally experiencing
we
that.
Haven't reaped the benefits of the law of attraction. How is this person supposed to...
Right. We may think that, you know, we're getting away with it, but the truth is that vibrationally we're sending a powerful message to the universe, and the universe is always, you know, collecting our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our beliefs, our everything. But we're not being as effective this way either. You know?
No, it's sending out bad signals in eeach regard.
Right.
I think that that's a very strong issue that people like us and the work that we do see is that, you know, we're not, pointing fingers, we're not trying to judge, but there is such a saturation right now of, or a diluted, combination, oversaturated, leading to dilutement of coaches, spiritual guides, spiritual people, and by all means, like, God bless, like, they're on their path too, like, this is not criticizing, but when they're coming at it from a place of turning it into a business, before they've gotten to that place, so, you know, I see a lot of postings for, like, how to run your business, how to have a great, we can use relationships, because that's, like, a great one. Oh, I'm a relationship coach, or I work with relationships, and, like, meanwhile, this person might have had several terrible relationships and might either still be in one or be like looking for the next, and they're telling other people how to have good relationships. Like, even if the information was right, if you haven't lived it and acted it and taken a shit relationship or, you know, how you were in a bad relationship and redid the dynamic that you bring to the next relationship and then transformed, you know, like, evolved yourself so now your relationships are good and healthy, then you don't have the authenticity to speak on this, let alone charge money for teaching. You know, it's one thing to give a friend advice, you know, but it's another thing to turn it into a business. And it's a tricky situation. I hate to talk about it even, but it is tricky.
Well, you know what? The discussion allows us to be authentic in sharing our frustrations or what we observe, and I would be in total agreement, while and I have said this to you and to many of the beloveds, while this expansion of growth, of spiritual hunger, and development is wonderful, 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 and very timely. What I've observed, which is what you're sharing, is that there is a saturation and the mystery teachings of authenticity, of being disciplined, of walking the talk, were first and foremost what you needed to achieve so that now you could be, and here it is, the reflection of that authenticity, the reflection, because you have become that. That speaks in volume when that reflection in itself is the magnet, But if you haven't obtained that, then two things happen. The interaction may not be as successful. But now on a collective level, it starts to compromise modalities because people start to lose faith in that. They didn't know, they couldn't help me, or they were interested in just the economic side, or they were really toxic, and and all these other things. And as a whole, it can compromise the spiritual and holistic modalities, in that it's not being practiced at the highest realm of authenticity that it should be or could be.
It's like a bad apple, kind of, and being like, I don't like apples. It's like, no, you had a bad apple. That's not the good apple that's gonna help you in any way or give you nutrient. It's like,
it's interesting, and here we go, right? These discussions are never plans or programs. We hope you know that. Somebody just posed a question to me a few days ago about what my thoughts were about distance attunements. And they were looking for a Reiki master, and they wanted to know. And I said, I totally endorse, although there is a very intimate exchange.
I love where you're going with this already.
There's such an intimate exchange when it's done in person, that if we had a choice and we could accommodate the physical intimacy, then I would say hands down that would be the way to go. However, the next important thing is, if you cannot make the physical interaction, and even if you could, what should be the greatest magnet is the connection, the authenticity.
I love this. This is so, you're really...
sorry. And the intent that you experience, that you feel from that, but, teacher, as you're engaging to the prelude, say, before you make the commitment.
Right, exactly.
Because all of these things are attainable, these feelings, these connections, you can say like, wow, I feel her authenticity, I feel her intent, or I feel her dollar figures.
No, totally. Right? I love, what you're saying, it touches me so much in terms of authenticity, because I do distance attunements, in my practice. We never talked about this before.
Never.
But I do distance attunements, and because I know there are some people, I've tried to find teachers before and I couldn't. I understand that, while I agree, in person, I would certainly prefer that. But if somebody is across the world or in a remote location, or whatever. So I've had attunements in Dubai, in Australia, in Ireland, in Canada, and everywhere. It. So, but the part of my conversation here, or what I'm adding, is that I was called to do this, and I fought it. I was like, no, that's not the way to do it. And it was like, no, you have to do it. You have to be more. You have to reach those people. And it was like, or just be available. Not like I have to go out and get them, but be available, make myself available. And I just I was fighting it, because I thought I was struggling with my own authenticity then, you know, because I'm contemplating tradition versus,
Right.
you know, like what I'm
Right.
called to do. And finally, like after months of cards, of tarot, of my pendulum, of meditating, of, you know, connecting with my guides, dream work, like everything I found was like, I'm going to do it. And I was nervous because I thought, you know, when I asked my Reiki teacher and stuff, and she was like, are you kidding? Like, are you kidding? You think you have that thought and it's not for a reason? You know, and I was like, it kind of made me feel dumb. But I almost appreciate my own discernment, you know, questioning myself, not being like, oh, I'm going to run out.
Because you weren't arrogant.
Right, so.
Or you didn't allow something else, say as a alchemical exchange, to be the forefront and saying like, what? I can make this much? Who cares if I can do it or not?
Right,
You know?
And it is so important for me, like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the relationship.
Oh,
like, so in our distance attunements, we have at least a 2-hour conversation face-to-face through Skype before we do the attunement itself. And this is after traditional training. This is just the connecting, vibing together, you know, so.
I think that that's everything, and I'm so glad that we got to this part, you know, on plans, because there it is. And again, authenticity speaks, you know, and we do not need to be present in order for that love and that commitment and that devotion speaks, you know, and it speaks in volume. You know, like right now, you have over 45,000 viewers on YouTube, and you know, they're experiencing you via a lens, right? And you know, waves. And how is it that they can tell, you know, and love you so much that you're so, you know, full of light? And it's because your authenticity goes through that camera. It goes through time and space to touch their heart. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
yes?
It really is. It really is.
And so, and there it is, you know, so we cannot lie is what we're talking about who we are authentically being, even though we try.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because that essence speaks.
And there might be individuals out there who want to be practitioners of some kind, but maybe, you know, if you're having romantic issues, financial issues, that might not be your leading point. Like, a good way to, if you're like, I need the help, I need to contribute, this is my calling, look at what you have mastered. What like overcoming did you do, you know? Because that's what people see in you.
Yes.
They see that
Yes.
because it's reflected in you. And then you can take an authentic stance, and not from a place of ego or, you know, anything that might jeopardize the authentic person. And of course, like, ego is good and bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm talking about that.
Yeah, and you know, right. My famous humble but bold comes into mind, because the balance of being humble and yet being bold in your, you know, in your reflection, in who you are, in your stance, is just, you know, the balance of those two is just so perfect. And you're right, you know, we need to remember that as we get into this third part of presenting authenticity, you know, there's a cause and effect. There's a divine exchange in every single molecule of anything that we ever are a part of. Whether we're exchanging, whether we're talking, whether we have an intention with another, you know, there's always a cause and effect. Always. Even if it exists on the energetic level and no other place.
Right.
Yes?
Yeah, with correspondence.
Yes. And so with that said, you know, where we are vibrating from and what our intentions are and how our authenticity is expressed has a big part with the cause and effect of what follows. And we need to be, we should be aware and responsible in seeing the, you know, fluidity of how the universe works. Those are universal principles. right? Did I go too deep on that one?
No, it's good. No,
Right.
it's we're getting into level 3 here.
And so what I'm saying by that is, there's a karmatic, by the way, the word karma, and we're going to do some discussions, some hardcore discussions on karma, but it makes me sad that the word karma gets a bad rap for karma.
Yeah.
And immediately, right, is that, what?
Did I step on an ant? Oh no, what's happening?
Right. It has a negative to the I don't know what I'm trying to say, like a response.
People, they feel like it's scary. It's,
right. And yet karma is one of the greatest gifts that we can experience in this experience, because karma is a gift for opportunity, a gift that can accelerate us, a gift that allows us to try again.
And then move on.
Exactly. And so, I don't see karma as a bad thing at all.
No.
It can be taxing if we're not setting out the right vibrations or the right intentions. Well, you know what? Cause and effect, it will come back to you. And so as we talk about being authentic on the third level of this, we are responsible karmatically for how we're representing ourselves, the reflection of who we're being. And if we believe that that our higher self and the universe is not keeping track of that, or that we're going to be able to get away with it, we better think again. Because...
Or we'll be thinking again.
Because we'll be thinking again, right? Because the universe keeps perfect balance of cause and effect. And I love that, because it may not even happen in this lifetime. You may come back a couple of times and all of a sudden, say like, oh, wait a minute, there's a payment to be made here, right. or a payment to be received, because the balance of the universal exchange is undeniably perfect.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and it is a beautiful thing.
It is.
And it's a mastery to see the beauty in karma versus being afraid of it, or, I gotta get rid of this karma in like an urgent or force kind of way, or feeling forced about it, feeling like as if you have like the debt keeps coming, right. Like the collectors are calling. Like, it's not about that. It's about, did you want to try again? Right. Do you want to take that class again?
I love it, because I've been asked, and I get all excited. So. I get asked often, like, what happens with karma? Like, some people are aware, as they review, parts of their lives that, an action, a deed that they, may have not been in the highest vibration. And that, some may not agree with this. And this is, again, my personal observation of it. But are we perpetuated to suffer, say, because we have an awareness that there was a deed that we could have handled a different way, a different response, and now are we doomed to experience then the karmatic impact of that for the rest of our lives here? And the answer is no, 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 and no.
Right.
Because what is needed, first and foremost, is the awareness of it. The moment we have the awareness, all of a sudden, that 100% karmatic weight drops to 50. Because awareness...
Now it's even. Now it's a decision.
Is, I did it. I was there. Because the karma is for the self as well as whoever took part in it. And so the minute you have the awareness, it kind of drops the weight. And so now the other 50% is the redemption of it and now that redemption can come in many ways. Our shifting, our thought processing of it, forgiveness of the act and ourselves, you see?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's amazing.
You can actively work towards it in a way through the practices of forgiveness or creating something like when you're saying like if it was forgiving a person who has done it to you, like that type of karma, you know,
yes,
releasing them so this is not carried on is insane, like incredibly powerful.
Or even yourself,
and yourself,
or even forgiving yourself, you know. And of course, you know, again, this is a touchy because, you know, when we talk of karma and we talk of deeds, bad deeds, there's some horrific things that have happened in the world and that people have done. And so I'm not the judge to say, like, look, what I am sharing, though, is that karma is not something that we need to carry perpetually. And when we talk about authenticity, it's so, because I see it so crystal clear, it's in being authentic with our actions, you know, and the cause and effect that our actions have or may have had, that then dictates the holding of karma. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
Yeah,
definitely.
And so, you know, if anyone is, you know, experiencing, God bless, I hope not, but if anybody is experiencing a weight of karma, you know, for any actions, look, we've had, some of us are very ancient souls, and so we've been this, that, and the other, you know, and that doesn't, I'm not condoning that, you know, with that, but we've been lost, and, you know, we've been hurt, and it's those situations that sometimes cause us to lash out or to act on.
And hold on to them. Like, we hold on to these things, whether it was us doing something that we deem negative or, you know, a bad time in our life or that we hurt someone. And I love the expression. I feel like we play a heavy role in karma by how we perceive in terms of, oh, that was bad. Like eating meat or something, you know, like I'm called to not eat meat. I am, you know, like I don't eat a lot of meat. Like, it just feels right to me. And when I do eat meat, I don't feel right about it, but I don't judge other people for doing it. It's not that type of thing. It's completely for myself, you know, and, you know, for the environment, but just, it's for myself. But if let's say I ate meat or, you know, whatever, I had cake and I ate meat or whatever, if I had a calling, I wanted a burger or whatever, for me to think like, oh, this is bad, I'm creating more karma instead of just eating a freaking burger. You know what I mean? And, like, letting it go. You know what I mean? So, like, we do play a part in what we're creating by our perception of right and wrong. There is right and wrong in terms of doing harm to another person intentionally. You know, I do see that. I see there's a better option. But a lot is done unintentionally, and in the universe, in the cosmic kind of, you know, grand scheme of things, there really is no right or wrong. It's a continuum. It's a trigger of this and that and this and that forever. And I just love the expression, which I think we've shared before, but you're not punished for your sins, but by them. So if you feel bad about something, it's going to play into your karma more. If you feel cursed because you did some kind of action, or you used to do this, or you let something bad happen, it's you know what I'm trying to say there? Like, we plant that a little more too.
And, you know, a lot of that comes from the outside, believe it or not, either from the outside and or, you know, that primary foundation that we spoke about in the first show of identity. You know, what's right and wrong, and it's such a complex, you know, because there's belief structures involved in that, you know, like religious belief structures, is there punishing God, morals, you know, and all that stuff. Listen, we know when we do something wrong.
Right.
Because we feel it, you know, most of the time, right? And you're absolute, I love that. The sin is self-imposed, you know. Is something out there going to punish us? Well, we know that there's cause and effect.
Right.
So being responsible for what we put out, because sooner or later, you know, the universe is going to balance it, right?
Right.
But the self-punishment then of, you know, that you're not worthy, that something, that you're jinxed, that your destiny's been altered, and all this stuff. Well, where are you now is the question, because authenticity is about being that authentic and saying, I recognize that that I was at a dark place,
Right.
and I recognize that I have an awareness of that now. That authenticity can completely erase or balance then, and give you that chance to be able to start over. And so I think it's really important, because you're right, some of us condemn ourselves for the rest of our lives because we've made poor choices in the past, or choices that didn't, that may have had a cause and effect in others' lives. And we're not endorsing that it's okay, but we're saying be authentic, and authenticity can actually free you and place you in a completely different state of experience.
Absolutely. And
Right.
it gives you this you have a much clearer perspective then of how to act, how to carry yourself, how to perhaps do some good deed. If you do think, like, I want to make up for that for myself, not because I'm going to be punished, it's not out of fear, or that it's just like, I want to make something better. Like, I want to contribute because it's a calling. It's not like I got to pay that debt kind of thing. So just, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling, but it's just that beautiful place of clarity, authenticity, alignment, the resonance you put out because of that. It's just like you can go in so many places from that point, and it feels so good too. Like, when you're there.
Right.
It feels good to be authentic.
Beautifully said, Lune. When we're being authentic, because it feels good, and when we know when we're not, because it doesn't feel good, and there's some kind of violation or feeling of that trickery, just that feeling that we know that, and I love what you said. There's nothing out there that's keeping track. Well, the universe keeps tracks just for the sake of balance, not for the sake of punishing you.
Right.
It is just like a bank. It takes deposits and it makes withdrawals.
I see it like as vacuum. Like, certain things create vacuums, and then it fills those. Like, it's like if you take a piece out of a puzzle, another piece goes. It's just filling it in. It's keeping it whole and balanced.
Right. But we know it and we feel it, and then that has a consequence, and it's going to have a consequence in your feelings when you're not authentic, in the manifestation of what's manifesting or not manifesting, due to the fact that you're not being authentic, and just being real. You know what? Going back to what we were saying earlier about the different, professions, and I think that we would be more successful if we were authentic than if we were trying to fit a status or a title that we really are not.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It's forced, and even if your conscious kind of ego mind, the ego part of your mind is like, oh, I can do it, I do that, I took this class, I'm doing this. But your true higher intelligence knows yourself and knows if you're on course with that authenticity, and that is what is the radiating effect, and that will bring someone clients or not, because of that. It's either gonna repel or attract, because that's what it does.
Yeah. And so we could go on forever with this one, right?
So
we would love to hear, something to think about, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on this discussion that is very broad and very personal, I think, because it's about being authentic, right? And so we love to hear your thoughts and love to see your comments.
Definitely.
Right?
It's very encouraging.
Yes. And so, of course, we've always concluded these beautiful discussions with a pulling of a card.
Okay.
What were you inspired to?
I grabbed your Angel Dreams Oracle cards.
Very soft.
Yeah, I was going for
and gentle
softness.
Readings, and I think we could use that because this one's a little. This was a little of a hard, right?
It begs you to look. It begs you
discussion.
to Go again. No, that was a mistake on my part. When they fall on the floor, I think that's a sign, but...
Actually, sometimes I'm doing readings and want to flip out, like literally, ready to hit somebody, just like that.
I keep going.
Oh,
I'm not a
we
good
have
shuffler.
2 cards.
Oh, again.
There we go again.
That's my style, I guess, for this.
Yeah, well, the oracle decks are speaking.
I have a message.
You pick one.
Okay.
Ooh.
I have new waxing moon. So the new moon is when it's very black. It's black in the sky. Very intuitive time. And waxing is getting bigger. So I see this as setting an intention for yourself. Maybe even doing a ritual on the new moon itself if you really want to like tap into that aspect. I think the new moon is a great time for setting intentions.
Yes.
And expect your growth. Like plan for the steps of your growth in that development. And of course this is in line with authenticity for you. Set an intention perhaps to be more authentic, tap into yourself. And if you're on the spectrum of not truly feeling that identity, not truly feeling your purpose, I would say don't put a lot of pressure on it because it evolves. It's not so clear. It's in an alignment, but it's not like you have this crystal clear image all the time. It changes.
Right.
Your goals get bigger. Your as you're going along, you see different mountains and things to tackle. But for me, I really love working with the heart, solar plexus, and throat in that regard. So if you're doing a ritual or setting intention, perhaps use stones that correspond with those chakras. The way I see it is our heart is our place of our soul, our true knowing of like what we need as individuals. The solar plexus gives us ties into that identity and action to act from that place. And the throat as expression. So if we're working in a ritual, maybe building a crystal grid or meditating or just setting some time for ourselves to really connect with that space, if you're on that zone, I really think these ones are the strongest ones for me that bring out authenticity into our lives,
yes.
And act and speak from those places.
I love what you're saying there, it's also really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes. Beautiful. I have, of course, astral travel.
The queen.
Beautiful vital force. The card represents information and dream time, soul travel. So astral traveling, we can do so much work when we are in our wakeful state, and you know what, we could do it almost to the place of anxiety in that we're working really hard and we really desire to get it, to understand. And I feel, believe it or not, in this call is saying, be gentle, Don't rush yourself into trying to figure it all out or being there.
Right.
Because
it's not how it works.
It doesn't. And if you feel that you're not learning as fast as you can, or you're not there yet, well, guess what? This is great news. While we sleep, our souls are astral traveling out into the Akashic records with the consoles and learning, or relearning, I should say, and obtaining a lot of data to bring back into your embodiment, right? And the part that I love about that is we don't have to have a conscious awareness that this is happening, because it is. And that knowledge is going to be slowly revealed to you in conversations and interactions and revelations and aha moments, in intuitive insights, So it's really great because it tells us that we don't have to put all this pressure that...
Right. There's a lot more to the waking life, in a sense.
Absolutely. And as far as the theme of today, which is authenticity, remember that you're not only a human, but that you are a spiritual being, and that as above, so below. That we're here, but we all are also there.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yes.
right?
I
I
like
love
that.
that car.
It's perfect.
Information, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely insight that
I
comes.
love it. I love it. Perfect.
We truly hope that you enjoyed this segment. And of course, we thank you so very much for your support. And as we're mentioning, you know, we did create a Patreon page. And we would invite you to visit it. There's a couple of tiers that we're still working on, but one of those tiers is offering a recap and additional information about each of the topics that we've covered. And another one of those offerings is audio, right? I believe, or will be coming.
Yeah, the audio is coming because we're gonna have the podcast.
Right.
We are gonna go on podcasts, so you'll be able to find us on the places that you listen to podcasts on. For me, that's iTunes, but for you, that might be something else. And yeah,
and there's another tier which will offer the community a weekly reading that Lune and I will take turns or maybe spontaneously do together. And so we are really excited to add more, features and offerings to the Patreon page. But of course, we invite you to, if you're inspired, to visit it. Yes.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. You know.
Yes.
And tell us what you think of the tiers too, because we could always use some guidance on what people would be interested in and what we can provide given our schedules and everything. So.
And as always, we always conclude these shows, discussions. We'll get it right. By leaving you always with our love, with our light, and with our peace. We send you our unconditional love, and we love you, and many blessings to you. And we love you, yes?
Thank you. Love you too. Thank you for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye.